Join us on Monday to Friday live at 12 p.m. for the TVWAN News Update, bringing you the latest in local and regional news. The TVWAN Midday News, Monday to Friday live at 12 p.m. on TVWAN.
Digicel TV, home of Rugby League. Dial *515# to subscribe.
Hello and thanks for joining us for the Midday News. The ABC International Development is spearheading the Toki Immunity campaign in Papua New Guinea to combat the vaccination misinformation and bolster public trust in vaccination. The initiative provides provincial health workers with digital and physical resources to address rumors and misinformation about immunity and vaccination effectively. A 5-week national multimedia campaign educates citizens on the importance of vaccination, while health workers gain access to an innovative digital app and supplementary materials tailored to diverse contexts. Joe Elsom, ABC ID lead, emphasized the campaign's life-saving impact through quality information dissemination. Collaborating with PNG communities and media expertise, the initiative aims to empower health workers to promote health practices confidently. The campaign featured personal stories and data to entertain and inform while countering misconceptions. Launched on February 29, 2024, the campaign enjoys support from the PNG National Department of Health and the Australia government. New Island Fisheries will undergo a major redevelopment to tap into its vast tuna and maritime resources, approved by the Provincial Executive Council at its meeting on Tuesday, February 24th. Deputy Governor and Chairman of Fisheries Committees, Semi Misen, announced the successful outcome of an intensive screening and deliberating process. The successful bidder and investor for the project, PNG FG Enterprise, will go into a joint venture business partnership with the government business arm, New Highland Development Corporation. Nissan informed the PEC that 4 reputable companies had applied through the fisheries community and underwent a screening process and met all requirements. The PEC's clear objective is to revamp the fisheries industry in New Highland and open a market and source of income for fishermen across the maritime province. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations under the EU-funded Street PNG program has collaborated with the National Youth Development Authority towards the establishment of the provincial youth councils in the West and East Pacific provinces. This initiative aimed to empower youths, particularly in rural areas, to have a platform to table youth issues, to become good leaders in the localities and to contribute significantly to the country's sustainable development through active participation in the agriculture sector. Under this initiative, a series of capacities building workshops and training sessions were held in West and East Pacific. 87 youths from the 10 districts representing cocoa, vanilla, and fisheries farming groups acquired leadership skills and were educated on the structure and mandate of the NYDA, the divisional functions of youth programs, and the partnership between the EU Strategic PNG program and the provincial administration, and the importance of youth involvement in decision-making and agri-food value chain. In regional news, a new interactive heat map shows Australia's capital cities could see twice as many days above 35 degrees by 2050. The tool from the Climate Council project's temperature averages under different emission reduction scenarios, which show more hot days could be on the horizon for Darwin.
To going tropo, handling the heat is part of life in the territory. But worrying new projections from the Climate Council show conditions could become even more difficult.
By 2050, Darwin could experience 4 times as many days above 35 degrees.
The climate heat map of Australia revealing parts of Darwin could swelter through an extra 3 months of temperatures in the mid to high 30s by 2050 if the country continues on its current emissions reduction path. It's a prospect which concerns territory doctors.
The hotter that Australia gets and the hotter that the Northern Territory gets, the more that Territorians' lives will be put at risk.
The territory's most vulnerable likely to be hit hardest.
This issue will affect all Territorians, but it will especially affect at-risk groups, which includes pregnant people, those who work outdoors, the elderly, young children.
It's not all bad news. Projections show the amount of days above 35 degrees could be reduced by around a third with additional climate action. Alice Nagy is a mother of one living in Rapid Creek, which could be one of the most impacted areas in Darwin.
Very deeply troubling. It keeps me awake at night, thinking about the projections and what it means for my daughter, but also the wider communities across the NT.
Alice wants to see the territory doing more to tackle emissions.
The federal government has an emissions reduction target of 53% by 2030. It would be great if the NT government would pursue a similar territory-wide emissions reduction target.
Concerns for the future, with hope for cooler times ahead for the territory's future generations.
Police believe they've made a breakthrough in the ongoing tobacco wars after arresting men that they've described as trusted insiders of organised crime groups.
The streets. Authorities say these illegal cigarettes are fueling Victoria's ongoing tobacco war.
There's turf wars, there's extortions, there's feuds between groups. Take away the product, that minimises that incentive to commit those types of offences.
This batch was intercepted earlier this month. Police say they found 10 million cigarettes in a shipment from Vietnam, worth about $15 million. Inside this warehouse is what police say are tens of millions of illegally imported cigarettes. These cigarettes will now be destroyed, but Border Force expects there'll be other consignments just like this turning up in the near future.
Last financial year, we had more than 120,000 detection of illicit tobacco at the border.
Yesterday, investigators swooped, arresting 6 men. They believe this bust is important because some of those involved work in the freight and transport industry and allegedly use their business connections to sneak illegal goods into the country and avoid paying millions in Commonwealth taxes.
The illicit tobacco funds and recruits people and corrupts people in these trusted positions.
One man arrested is from the Hadara family, which is allegedly involved in a turf war with another syndicate over the sale of illegal tobacco. That feud has played out in public, leading to dozens of fire bombings of tobacco shops and businesses over the past year and a half. Just last night, this shop went up in flames in Ballarat, the 4th attack in the regional city this month. Victoria Police's Lunar Task Force is investigating as they try to put the brakes on an underworld war that's spreading across Victoria.
The Australian federal government is phasing out cheques by the end of the decade, but some banks are making the move ahead of that, with one stopping processing cheques this week.
Pensioner Michael Coogan uses cheques to pay his rent.
We don't do any banking online because we're not familiar enough with computers. Computers don't figure largely in our lives.
Banks say cheques are costly to process, even more so as fewer people use them. It's a cost that'll shift now to Mr Coogan when his bank stops issuing cheques this week, and he'll have to begin paying a fee to pay rent.
Every cent counts. And to all those 33-year-olds and 34-year-olds out there, one day you will be 43 and 53 and 63, and you'll discover that your income shrinks.
National Seniors Australia fear vulnerable people will be left behind as banking goes digital.
So the banks have got to really just make sure that, as a system, that they are providing support to the entire community, not just the cohort that have mortgages.
The use of cheques has dropped 90% in the past decade, now making up less than 1% of all transactions. The federal government admits phasing out cheques will affect older and lower income Australians, but has promised an inclusive, gradual shift. Tenants Queensland is worried the end of cheques will push more people onto fee-charging third-party platforms.
In effect, the agents are subcontracting their rent collection requirements and also cost shifting onto the tenant. It just makes sense that you shouldn't be charged for paying your rent.
The Australian Banking Association says its members are supporting customers to transition to easier, more accessible ways to pay.
I'm not comfortable with it. I know by the number of cheques, other people aren't comfortable with it.
But they'll soon have to get used to it.
In sports, the PNG 100 metres track specialist Leroy Kamu has confirmed that he has quit the track to pursue rugby league. He made this announcement after signing with Pro Era Sports Management this month. Having played rugby league before, Kamu has decided to return to the 13-man code after a successful career on the track. He competed in many regional events, including appearances at the Olympics and Commonwealth Games. Pro Era Sports Management acknowledged to the young man for being regarded as fastest man in the Pacific. Pro Era Sports Management and Kamu are looking forward to his first rugby league outing on the field. The Australia Matildas have trust as Bastinita Neil to qualify for the Paris Olympics in style, with Michelle Ayman scoring 4 goals to put her hand up for a ticket to Paris. Australia led the tie 3-0 after Sunday's first leg in Tashkent, but blew Uzbekistan out of the water to win 30-0 on aggregate, with Catilla Ford, Matilda Trophy, Mary Fowler, Aileen Rosso and Amish Sela also scoring. Temperatures hit 36 degrees Celsius in Melbourne Helia on Wednesday, but it didn't dictate a crowd of 54,120. The Matildas took the lead inside 34 seconds at Marville Stadium and never looked back, with Fowler at her spellbinding best in an 8-goal first half rout. After finishing 4th at the World Cup and the last Olympic Games, the Matildas booked their ticket to Paris with redemption on their minds and maybe a new or old face in the mix. This ends the Midday News. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.